Why is it so hard to stick to a diet long term? In this episode of the podcast, we'll lay out all the reasons why so you don't get caught off guard or blindsided by them. Tune in and take notes.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
Guys, welcome to another episode of the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we talk to our coaches, our CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders about how you can experience your best life, how you can look your best, feel your best, perform your best, enhance your understanding of the factors that drive your best life so you can step into that best life. And one of really important topics that comes up an awful lot in what we do as coaches here at CrossFit is helping people to not just eat in a healthier way, but eat in a healthier way that's sustainable. And that is one of the necessary prerequisites to long-term success with your health, your wellness, looking good, feeling good, performing at your best, being your best self as a spouse, a career person, a parent, an athlete, stepping into your greatness and living your best life, living a life uninhibited, a life with no limitations. A lot of that is having a healthy, sustainable, long-term approach to healthy eating. You need to have that consistently over time to see great changes over time. But why is it so difficult for so many people to stick to a diet? And I have a theory that's moving toward hypothesis or even a law that I'd like to share with you guys on this episode of the podcast. And as I go into this, I fully recognize that all of this is multifactorial. Why is it hard to stick to a diet? There's not just one reason. There are several, but I'm going to lay out a really big one in this episode of the podcast. And I will also validate and vouch for the following reasons. This is not my main point of this podcast, but there is a lot to be said for the culture that we live in here in America, where we've got television and advertisements everywhere that are often presenting all these amazing, delicious, and not so healthy options to us. It is so easy for us in first world countries. We can't go anywhere in our vehicles without passing by several fast food restaurants that are presenting all of this extremely delicious food. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's so easy to access. It is so inexpensive that there are literally every single day hundreds, if not thousands, of distractions and paid for interests out there that are actively pulling you in a direction that is not conducive to your health. The food and drink industries are probably not your allies in having a healthy diet. And the constant presence of distractions, the constant presence of unhealthy options, the ease of access to them, all of this means that there are pitfalls everywhere, and it's super easy to fall off the wagon. It's super easy to make mistakes. It's super easy to be fooled because the food and drink industry will prey on your ignorance, and they'll label some food as healthy, a healthy option, when it's not. They'll label it as low fat, which has the suggestion that it's healthier than something that is higher fat, when it's not necessarily. They'll have some packaged processed nonsense that has a lot of protein, and they'll label it as healthy because there's a lot of protein. There's a lot of misinformation out there that can trip you up and also make it where it's just very, very easy to get sidestepped or to get just misled. It's very, very easy for those things to happen. But my theory for why healthy eating over the long term can be tough is actually deeper and more innate to ourselves than that. When you start a new diet, it can often be an exciting time. You've gotten your motivation up, you're driven, maybe you've written down some goals, you're excited to do something new, pursue a better direction, pursue a better version of yourself. The prospect, the idea of achieving a better life, of feeling really good and looking really good and being able to maximize your life and be at your best, all of that is a very exciting prospect. And the vision of that can be wonderfully motivating and exciting, and it can be a driver for you to eat in a healthier way. What will happen is after the first week or two of doing this, eating in a healthier way, a lot of times for many people, the newness, the excitement, the novelty of living a healthier life starts to wear off. And so their excitement, their motivation, their drive to stay the course begins to wane. And that is another factor that can make it hard to stick to a diet. But the factor that I think might be the toughest of all for so many people is the fact that your body, and this is the point of the podcast here, your body is not necessarily extremely good at metabolizing different foods right away. So, for example, if you've been eating the standard American diet of just whatever, process this, package that, kind of eating whatever you're spurred to eat, eating at different restaurants on a regular basis, no real game plan. If there are certain foods that your body is used to taking in, your body will become relatively efficient at metabolizing and using those foods for energy. And you'll be kind of used to a certain baseline level of how you feel. That might be kind of crummy, it might be kind of okay, but you're used to feeling some kind of way based on the foods that you're used to eating. When you make a change to eating perhaps better foods, whole foods, real foods, eating in an intentional, thoughtful way, eating your meat, your veggies, nuts, and seeds, some starch, a little bit of fruit, no sugar, your body is actually not immediately incredibly efficient at metabolizing those different foods. So what can happen, especially around 2 weeks in to any new diet, is your body is just not super good at taking in and using efficiently those foods. And what happens then is your energy levels actually start to decrease. You feel less amazing. You feel less awesome between roughly days 15 and 21 of your new diet. The newness has worn off, as I mentioned before, but now you also have this effect of your energy is not as good and you do not feel as good. You feel generally crummier and cranky and irritable because you're going into these withdrawals because you haven't had the sugar that you're used to. You haven't had the dopamine hit of the suboptimal or even like crappy food that you like to eat. It's tasty, but you haven't had the short-term temporary food highs. So you're not riding off the highs of the food from the past. You're not riding off the highs of being on a new diet, the excitement of the newness. You're not riding those highs anymore. And at the same time, your body's energy is dropping because your body has now been almost flushed out of all the crappy foods. You've put in healthy foods there, but your body's not the best at actually metabolizing and using them for energy yet. And so right around week 2, you feel pretty crappy. You just don't feel very good. And you start asking yourself the question, do I really want to stick with this? Is this worth it? I don't feel great at all. And the journey is long. And you start becoming very tempted to go back to what is easy, to go back to all the short-term spikes and food highs from eating crappy foods, going back to your usual diet, the easy things becomes very attractive because you thought you'd be feeling better. You thought that you'd be glad that you were on this journey. And psychologically, it can become much, much harder between days like 15 and 21 of your new diet, largely because your body is not very good at using healthier foods yet. But one of the cool things that happens, if you can stay the course and push through it, by day 21 or so, you'll actually see your body's efficiency of metabolizing healthier foods. Your body gets better at doing that. Your body becomes trained to pull energy, to pull cognitive function, physical performance, focus, energy from better foods, healthier foods. And what happens if you can make it to like that 3-week mark, that day 21-ish mark, plus or minus, you'll find that all of a sudden, all of the good things spike upward in your favor. Your energy is amazing. Your mental focus, your clarity, your physical performance in the gym, your performance cognitively when you're speaking in meetings. You'll find that you're more patient with your kids. You're less stress. You're I guess, more stress tolerant. You're just happier. You're sleeping better at night. You feel better during the day. You've got incredible physical, mental, psychological energy. All those good things tend to happen around week 3, but most people don't make it to week 3. They quit around week 2 because of the reasons we outlined here in the podcast. But I want you guys to have that exciting vision and know that it is a short season. And if you can press through that discomfort period where your body kind of mutinies against you in around week 2, if you can push through that and make it to weeks 3 and 4, then you'll start seeing all the fruits of your labors. You start to see the seeds that you planted with healthy eating really start to flower and blossom into something great. And then you do feel really, really good. And the work is worth it, and it becomes easier to sustain it over the long term. So don't quit. Keep pushing through. Get past that adaptation period where your body learns to metabolize foods more effectively, healthy foods, I should say, more effectively, so you can get all the goodness that lies on the other side of that discomfort. Hopefully this episode has given you some clarity about what the healthy living, healthy eating journey really looks like. And hopefully it helps you to get through those sticking points that so many people struggle with. It's Coach G here, one of the coaching team at CrossFit Edwardsville, and I will see you guys in the next episode of the podcast.